Hello everyone, this is Richard from Modern Healthspan. Today we have a special episode where we have compiled the longevity protocols from some of our earlier guests. We would like to extend our thanks to our guests who have come on our channel and shared their health and longevity protocols. I think that it is very helpful to see what the top experts in the field do daily based on what they have learned. So with that, I will start the video.
What do you do to stay healthy and keep your brain healthy?
Mm-hmm. You know, definitely aerobic exercise. So running, swimming, as much as I can find the time. And I really think that's important from a general health standpoint for humans. And I think based on all the research and animal models is really, you know, basically the best thing that you can do and the safest thing you can do. You know, it's hard to say exactly how long or how hard you need to run or swim, right? These kinds, they're not pinned down, but definitely more is better than none. Some is better than none, I should say. You know, there may be a peak of too much, right? People have done studies, marathon runners and things, they have problems with mitochondria or muscles or things like that long term. So, you know, sometimes pushing it too far may have, you know, negative effects downstream. But at least some exercise, moderately strenuous aerobic exercise, I think is really the best thing you can do. You know, I think that's why a lot of people sometimes, right, you know, you get a runner's high, or people, you know, who work out or go running in the middle of a work day, often, you know, they feel like they can think more clearly, or they feel, you know, refreshed, revived. You know, a lot of that's endorphins and things like that. But I think there's absolutely some truth to exercise being healthy and good for your brain. The other thing, you know, I like I mentioned, the idea of using your brain and having sort of environmental enrichment, right? Stimulating your brain. I wouldn't say I do anything myself currently that's specifically doing that. You know, I think my research is outside of my work, you know. I mean, my research is very stimulating and I'm using my brain constantly. I'm learning new things every day in the lab and with my work. And so I think that's absolutely important and valuable. As we get older, as we retire, staying active and you know, using your brain, having experiences, going out, talking to people, learning new things, those are valuable things, you know, once you're sort of less active in the workplace.
So what's your kind of exercise and diet protocol?
Yeah, I think my main challenge is really managing stress. Right. So there is so much, you know, going on, and so kind of being able to disconnect and kind of reset our minds. It's where I struggle because I think I could do better. But in terms, so what I do for that is meditation. I try to meditate at least 10 to 20 minutes every day, every morning after I wake up. Then I usually also like to exercise in the morning. So I'm mixing strengthening exercises with high intensity intervals training, because I want also to improve my cardio conditioning. I have, you know, a history of cardiovascular disease in my family, so I'm making sure that, you know, I'm keeping my heart, you know, working and
Yep.
So for sure, all of those high intensive types of training really help. And then my diet, it's basically a whole food, more plant-based diet. I also decreased a lot the amount of red meat that I eat. So I still eat fish from time to time, but it's basically more on the plant-based diet. And then I take a few supplements. I was taking fisetin or fisetin. That's a flavonoid that also we test in the lab. So it's good that we have the ability of testing different compounds in our lab, because we can see what really works. And fisetin, we saw good effect. It needs to be to a certain concentration dose. So if you don't reach 20, in our case, if I'm not wrong, was 20 micromolar, you don't see the senolytic effect. So I think the challenge is for us taking as a supplement is that we never know how much is really being absorbed, and if we are reaching that concentration that the supplement is really, being effective. But again, if it's safe, at least there is not much like to lose. So
I mean, it's interesting that you actually tested that. That is really interesting. And so, how often, how much fisetin do you take, and how often? Although I agree with you, with all these supplements, it's so difficult to actually know how much is being used or is getting into your body.
Yeah, so I take 20 milligrams per kilo, and then I divide the dose in 2 days. So for example, if I need to take 1800 milligrams, I will have 900 milligrams one day and 900 milligrams the next day. And I do this once a month.
Interesting. Okay, excellent. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So
we also tested NMN, and we also in the lab. So NMN was also like a supplement that we saw an effect on senescent cells. So that's another one that I just starting. I just started to take recently. So
interesting. How much NMN do you take a day?
So I started with 500 milligrams, but then I think I can go up to 1000 milligrams.
So could we start with diet? So what does your diet look like? And do you have like target macronutrients?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So first of all, I'll say this is going to be pretty boring. I try to do what we all know we should do. Yes, I for about the last year, I have been on, it's probably not a true ketogenic diet, but definitely low carb. And I do that in part because it works really well for me. So one thing I think we have to say, especially about diet, is it's very clear that different people respond very differently to the same diet, right? That's absolutely true. So it's my view that nobody should be eating McDonald's all the time, but whether or not for a given individual, right, a low carb diet is the best for their individual health status. I think there's probably pretty profound genetic driven differences in the way people respond to diet. And this is where the mouse studies are a real limitation, because almost all of the mouse studies that have been done on diet, on caloric restriction, low protein, keto diet, those are almost all done in inbred mouse strains, which don't have genetic diversity. And so we really don't have an understanding of, what people are now starting to call personalized nutrition, how a person's given genotype and environment interacts with their diet. So for me, I have found through, more years than it probably should have taken, that a low carb diet works really well for me at this point. And I do exercise regularly. That's the other thing that I think, everybody knows is an important part of a healthy lifestyle. I don't think you can overestimate how important it is. I mean, I really think that regular exercise is critical for many aspects of health. And again, you could debate what type of exercise is best. So the starting point is it doesn't matter. Just do something is my advice. But again, I think you can try to find out what works for you, right? So for me, I've always enjoyed resistance training with weights. That works for me. I think there's pretty good evidence that at least as we get older, maintaining muscle mass is important, and resistance training is a good way to do that. We also live in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, so we got out and did a lot of hiking this year, which with COVID was something you could actually go and do, get outside. So, that's an enjoyable way for me to get exercise. And now it's ski season, so I get up and go skiing, when I can. So again, I think a combination of, being relatively moderate in your diet and exercising regularly is pretty good.
Wrap up. So one last question. So if there was one habit or one thing that you could do to extend your health span as long as possible, what would you pick? It's like your top.
Wow. Yeah. So, wow, to reduce it all, I'm generally anti-reductionist because most things are multivariable, right? So, my first thoughts go to calorie restriction versus exercise. Okay, and then so now it's the battle of CR versus exercise. Which would I prefer, right? So I'd probably go with. I wouldn't wish to pick one or the other. I'd ideally have them both, right? But I guess I'd go with exercise in that case. But then CR may have the longest lifespan extending effect compared to exercise. Maybe exercise would get me 7 to 10 extra years, but maybe higher quality years. I'd be more functional, more fit, more vibrant. Whereas pure calorie restriction with no exercise, I would be eating less, but my life may feel like I'm, the old joke with CR, you're going to eat less, you're going to live forever, but it's going to feel like you're living forever. It's so slow and monotonous that right? So yeah, I'd probably go with exercise on that. But that said too, if you're going to pin me in the reductionist box.
Right. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's a complex thing, so it's difficult.
It is, yeah.
So can you share what's your protocol look like? We talked a little bit about some of the things that you do.
What do I do?
Yeah, what do you do?
So my typical day, I get up, I will do a morning meditation, then I will get up and do my workout, a strength training workout. Some days I do swimming, I then do a sauna. I do another breathing meditation. I do a 5.5 minute cold shower. And then I get dressed, take a walk outside for some sunlight, fresh air, and then I start my day. And then in the evening, I will often do a round of eSTIM while I'm watching the news. And I'll do an evening meditation off to sleep, preferably between 9 and 9:30. So I can be back up the next morning between 5 and 6.
Excellent.
I eat every other day. So today was an eating day. So I had some chicken. That was our protein. Then we had a variety of vegetables with that as well.
Right. Excellent. So do you take any supplements, can I ask?
I do. I've done some specific testing for that. The biggest one, I take some targeted B vitamins. I take omega-3 fats, some phosphatidylcholine, and vitamin D. We have on my shop page, a very nice vitamin D and a basic nutrients to get people going in terms of a foundational approach.